Throughout World War II, there were a number of terrible war crimes that were committed by the German army under the direct orders of Adolf Hitler. The Commando Order, which was issued by the High Command of the German Armed Forces in October 1942, would lead to the death of many Allied soldiers who were executed illegally. Those soldiers who were said to have been an enemy commando, or an agent, or who was part of a similar group of soldiers, or someone who was not in proper enemy uniform, was liable for execution, and they were slaughtered by the SD, or the Security Service. This order at the end of the Second World War led to some high-ranking German field marshals and generals being executed themselves, as they knew they were committing a war crime with regards to this. But across occupied German lands, the Commando Order led to a large number of illegal executions, and some people did pay for this. Welcome to The Untold Past. Today we look at the executions of the Commando Order, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. The Commando Order, which was issued by the OKW, or the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, on the 18th of October 1942, was in direct violation of the Geneva Convention, and the Germans tried to justify ordering the execution of commandos due to a number of small-scale incidents they discovered that the Allies had been involved in. For example, following the Dieppe Parade, the bodies of shot German prisoners were discovered allegedly by the German forces, and also German prisoners who were captured during the Sark raid were allegedly shot and killed. The Germans then issued their order, and Hitler himself claimed that, in future, all terror and sabotage troops of the British and their accomplices, who do not act like soldiers but rather like bandits, will be treated as such by the German troops and will ruthlessly be eliminated in battle wherever they appear. Hitler was ordering the executions of those enemy soldiers who treated German prisoners roughly, but his army then went further. Hitler issued the Commando Order himself in secret, and there were only 12 copies of this drawn up to begin with. Specifically, the order stated that, "I order therefore, from now on all men operating against German troops in so-called commando raids in Europe or in Africa are to be annihilated to the last man. This is to be carried out whether they be soldiers in uniform or saboteurs, with or without arms, and whether fighting or seeking to escape, and it is equally immaterial whether they come into action from ships and aircraft, or whether they land by parachute. Even if these individuals on discovery make obvious their intentions of giving themselves up as prisoners, no pardon is on any account to be given. On this matter, a report is to be made on each case to headquarters, for the information of the higher command. Should individual members of these commandos, such as agents, saboteurs for example, fall into the hands of the armed forces through any means, as for example through the police in one of the occupied territories, they are to be instantly handed over to the SD to hold them in military custody, for example in prisoner of war camps, even if only as a temporary measure is strictly forbidden. Hitler specifically gave the order for German soldiers to execute captured Allied soldiers who were commandos, or who were not in the correct uniform when captured, or those who were suspected of being saboteurs. The order led to the deaths of hundreds, many of whom should have been given prisoner of war status and better treatment. Commandos, or those accused of being these forces, were given over to the German security forces and were then sent to concentration camps to be executed, or they were shot instead on the battlefield after being found. Some of these executions were, as mentioned, incredibly sadistic and were barbaric. The first victims of the Commando Order were soldiers involved in Operation Musketoon, who conducted a raid aimed at damaging a Norwegian power plant, and 2 officers and 5 other soldiers who were captured were sent to the tough concentration camp of Sachsenhausen for their execution, and they were shot on the 23rd of October 1942. Further slaughter continued in the following months as other soldiers were executed. In December 1942, Royal Marine Commandos, who were captured during Operation Frankton, raiding ships in Bordeaux, were executed by a German naval firing squad, and Erich Raeder, the German admiral, would write that these men were wearing uniforms, meaning that they were in fact committing even worse crimes shooting captured prisoners who were in correct uniform and were not undercover. One of the most high-profile war crimes committed on Italian territory saw 15 soldiers of the American Army, who landed as part of Operation Ginny 2, a sabotage mission, captured after things went wrong. German soldiers were given orders to execute these men under the Commando Order, as they were intending to commit sabotage and destroy bridges, but the German officer who had been ordered to perform the shootings refused to do this. General Anton Dössler forced the executions to go ahead, and with this the American soldiers were all executed, with their remains then being hidden and covered up in a mass grave. At the end of the war, Anton Dössler found himself accused of issuing illegal orders in relation to these executions, and he himself was shot by a firing squad relating to the insistence that the American prisoners of war were shot under the order. Following D-Day, there were a number of SAS soldiers, 34 of them to be exact, and also an American pilot, who were seized as part of Operation Bull Basket. This intended to block the Paris to Bordeaux railway line, and to prevent German reinforcements moving towards the Normandy beachheads, and they wanted to halt the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, allowing Allied soldiers a better chance of success. But a number of men were captured, and most of these were shot, but 3 wounded men who were sent to hospital were then executed using lethal injections inside of hospital. The killings under the Commando Order continued, as British commandos in September 1944 were sent to Mauthausen concentration camp, one of the most severe sites of the Second World War, and they were to be executed along with 40 other Dutch soldiers. There were also many American airmen who were treated in this way too, as between October 1944 and March 1945 there were 9 US airmen who were executed following being shot down in areas controlled by infamous Nazi henchman Jürgen Stroop. He claimed that it was common knowledge that American flyers were terrorists and murderers who used methods contrary to civilized norms. We were given a statement to that effect from the highest authorities. It was accompanied by an order from Heinrich Himmler, and Stroop later claimed that the American POWs had been taken into a forest and then given a ration of lead for their American necks, meaning being shot. But all this killing specifically related to the Commando Order, which was illegal. It was, however, legal to execute spies and saboteurs who were disguised in civilian clothes, or who were wearing German uniforms, for example. But many of these victims were doing none of this, but it was for certain known by Hitler, when he issued the instructions, that this was a direct violation of international law. The Führer and his staff took a number of steps to keep the Commando Order private and quiet, and they knew it would amount to war crimes, and even Erwin Rommel and other high-ranking German generals and field marshals refused to pass the order on to their men, as they knew it was 1, dishonourable, and 2, illegal. Because of the Commando Order, at the end of the war, a number of high-ranking Nazi military officials themselves were executed. The most senior member of the German military, Wilhelm Keitel, was condemned to death alongside General Oberst Alfred Jodl for the signing of the order, and they were then hanged as war criminals by John C. Woods on the 16th of October 1946. As mentioned, other prominent German generals such as Anton Dössler, who were executed for the crimes of their soldiers who shot prisoners of war. Other German officials were given prison sentences for the slaughter of enemy commandos, who should have been given better treatment. But the Commando Order was one of 2 orders which alluded to the slaughter of many people who should have been spared and processed as prisoners of war in the correct way. The Commissar Order was also administered by Hitler, which aimed to execute Bolsheviks and Soviet commissars with no questions asked. The illegal orders led to the executions of hundreds of people who were mostly shot, but some were sent to concentration camps and were subjected to other execution methods, such as lethal injection. The Commando Order was a harrowing piece of paper that led to many war crimes that violated the rules and laws of war. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.